Hello, everyone. Welcome. What's up, YouTube world? How are you doing? Welcome to Mobility Bros. My name is Coach Cliff. This is Ron Hilton. We are the host of the
The Mobility
Mobility Bros.
Bros.
We are so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for coming and tuning in. We have an amazing guest to talk to today. Tiffany, how are you today?
I'm here. Good. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we
Awesome.
We're excited to have you. We're so excited to have you guys. You know what we do here every week? We talk about mobility, athletic mindset, the pain reduction and pain management of our clients, thoughts and processes of practitioners like us in this room right now, and the mindsets of our members. We are excited to have this topic to talk with Tiffany about her journey in fitness and wellness and what she's done to make impact in the industry. But before we do that, we want to say thank you so much to our sponsors. We got the legendary athletic apparel in the house. Thank you guys so much for supporting. Please look at the link, buy a shirt that supports our channel and it supports us to be able to continue to do this. Please like, subscribe, do all those things, notification bells, you know the deal. We appreciate you. Please comment in the comments if you have any questions about what we talk about today. We'd love to know what's going on, what you like to hear. We want to know more about what's going on with our members and our subscribers and the people who like and support us because we want to communicate with you guys. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Ron, introduce us to Tiffany.
So Tiffany also sponsor Fitness Essentials. Don't forget about your Fitness Essentials. That's one of our so so Tiffany is awesome. I've been following Tiffany for a while on Instagram. She is a beast with Kettlebell Sport. So I'm just gonna give a little bit of her bio. So Tiffany Longcor is an odd lift enthusiast, kettlebell coach, and athlete. She helps her clients to try new and unconventional lifts with a smart and safe progression. Tiffany has been coaching since 2017 and specializes in teaching her students how to be their strongest and healthiest self. Tiffany is an international kettlebell coach, and she also is she's mastered the bent press. She's done a 50-kilo bent press, which comes out to about 110 pounds. So that's beast. That is beast. So my first question, Tiffany, is when did you get it? When did you find an interest in kettlebell training, like specifically kettlebell training, like and specifically kettlebell sport versus hard style?
Honestly, I just sort of stumbled into finding kettlebells. When I graduated college, I moved back home, and I was like working out in my parents' garage, and I was just running a bunch. And I was like, I should probably do strength training. I played sports in college. I was like, I know that I need to incorporate uh strength training again back into this routine. And I just Googled best equipment for a home gym and a kettlebell came up. And that's how I found kettlebells. I got one uh for Christmas that year, and I just started training kettlebells, practicing, following along with videos on the internet. And then like shortly, I don't know, probably within that year, I hopped onto Instagram and I just started following kettlebell people, and I ended up following a lot of kettlebell sport people one way or another. I don't know how I stumbled, because that's not the dominating kettlebell culture. But I ended up following a bunch of kettlebell sport people, and I just sort of was like, well, that's cool. That's a fun competitive thing that I can get into. I'm a very competitive person. Like I said, played sports in college, and uh, I just sort of was like, well, let me just practice that. And my husband, well, my boyfriend at the time, my husband now, we were figuring out where we were going to move next. And we were just sort of like hopping around to different cities, checking them out. And we were looking at San Diego. And I posted on Instagram that I was going to go check out San Diego. And this guy named Pete tagged every single person from this gym called Core.
Okay.
And he was like, you have to go check out this gym. And I was like, I felt like such a lot of like peer pressure to go because he tagged every single person who worked there, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to go now. Like they all saw my name, and it was like really small at that time. There wasn't like a lot of people on Instagram doing that. So I went there and I checked it out, and it's a kettlebell gym, and ended up being a team where like did competitive kettlebell sport. There was a team there, and we moved down there, and I went to that gym and I competed in kettlebell sport. I ended up coaching there before they closed down and I moved away. So like it just like I said, just sort of like fell forward into finding a sport that is super small and niche, but it worked out okay for me.
That's awesome. I always said kettlebell sport should be in the Olympics. Like I'm like, out of all the, I'm like, if they could put, if what is that little thing that with the little ball on it, that badminton? I'm like, if they could put badminton in the Olympics, why can't they put kettlebell sport in the Olympics? It's ridiculous. Like badminton is what you do in the backyard with your drunk uncle. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, presumably they're better than the drunk uncles though. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Extremely better than the drug uncles. Those
They are,
things,
they
they
are.
hit those things, they're like, "Swoop, swoop, swoop, swoop." That's crazy.
yeah.
Amazing your journey. I think it was really cool that it was like a curiosity, to finding something at home that turned into a full-blown sport where you were like, people were like, you gotta come over here. Um,
Yeah.
Really cool. So you said you were trying to figure out something from home, and you were with your boyfriend at the time, you guys were moving, and then kettlebells kind of was the thing that seemed to be the easiest thing to like do at home. Um, what was the overall goal to training? Was it just like looking for strength training because you were done with college, like you mentioned? What was the goal? Why did you want to get into strength training?
Well, like I said, I played sports in college, and I played soccer, and we did
Ah,
strength
soccer.
training, like a lot, with at least twice a week, and so I was just running like a lot. Like I was running like at least 3 miles every day,
Mm.
sometimes upwards of 10 on a treadmill,
Oh.
like every morning, and I just was getting hurt because I wasn't doing anything else, and coming from the background that I came from, being athletic, I was like, I know why this is happening. Like I know I know why I'm hurting myself. I'm only running. I wasn't doing any sort of like warming up. I was walking for 5 minutes and then I was running. I was 21. Like you can get away with that 21.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so I just was like, I know what I need to do. Like I had a pretty good background in athletics. So I was like, well, what I need to do is I need to strength train. I lived in rural California at the time, so it wasn't like I could just go hop into a gym. Um, and so I was like, well, what can I do? What can I get like one piece of equipment that I can just do what I need to do without having to, you know, figure out everything else and like find dumbbells and all these different weights. So I was like, maybe just find one thing. I wasn't planning on like doing a lot of strength. It was just like to supplement, so I knew that I could like run more.
Ah,
Uh, and that's how it started. And then eventually I, shifted from running into doing sport more. There was a time I was doing both about equally,
mm.
but it just sort of ended up being more fun and more competitive for me, as somebody who likes to compete, to do sport. And also like it was I went into a gym that was doing kettlebell sport. Like there was a team, like we had a team and went to competitions together,
That's
and
so
you
cool.
could like go compete as a team and your score counted overall, but also like you were
Wow.
competing against yourself and your own numbers. So like that was like very motivating as somebody who came from a background where I like to compete. I
Yeah.
like to grind and I like to win.
Yes.
Um and so it just sort of worked out.
Very cool.
It just happened, and I was like, okay, cool. I guess I'm not really running as much now. I'm gonna do this, and I liked it. It's more fun.
That's,
Can
Running
you
takes forever, so.
that's a
can
good
you
point.
just maybe differentiate a little bit with difference between kettlebell sport and hard style? Like me, I
Mhm.
train hard style. I know very little about just from what I see about sport. I've never trained sport. I have an idea. So could you give some idea about the difference?
Yeah, so kettlebell sport is endurance weightlifting. So the technique is going to be a little bit different. With hardstyle, you're very much focused on the hardstyle hinge, and it's very power based. Kettlebell sport is endurance. So we're going for a very long time. So the technique reflects that. It's a scoop style swing, pendulum style swing. The
Mm.
technique is different. We're not staying as grounded. We're moving to adapt to the weight. And you're going for, in theory, 10 full minutes. There's other events, there's 5 minutes and there's 30 and 60 minutes, but generally speaking, you're doing a 10-minute set. And there are three main lifts. There's the snatch, and you get to switch your hands once on the snatch. There is the jerk, and that is two bells in your rack position to your overhead position for 10 minutes straight. Don't put the bells down. And long cycle, and that is a clean and jerk. So you rack them up into your rack position, jerk, and then drop them back into your clean every rep. Um, and then you can also do biathlon, which is jerk and snatch, or triathlon, which is jerk, snatch, and
Wow, I did
long
not know that.
cycle.
That's pretty freaking cool.
10 minutes
Yeah,
each, it would be, right? If it's a triathlon, it'd be 10 minutes of each exercise nonstop. Do you
Wow.
get
yeah.
break in between the transition or is it
Yes, yeah. You usually get I think the minimum you can get is 10 minutes. But generally at a competition you'll get like 20 or 30. Usually if you're doing a triathlon, when you sign up for a triathlon, and the people organizing try to put you into specific spots so you're not like screwed basically.
What's the
I did
what's
it by both the biathlons I've done. When I did like in person, they had me do my jerk set. Like I was the very first one of the day, so I could have enough time to rest between before my
okay.
snatch set.
What's
nice?
your key? What's the kilos for that when you do that?
Depends. Whatever weight you compete at. So you can do it at as low as 8 kilos for women, and as high as double 32s for like
Wow.
professional level men.
Wow.
So that's all. It all depends uh, on the lifter, you know. So like I've done my biathlons at 16 kilos, and that's fine for me. I don't really want to go any heavier than that.
Yeah, well, I can tell by even the way you think about running and your sport and having to recover from injuries from running and the way you started training, you compete very intelligently. You compete where you're at, you're having fun with it, you're competing with yourself as well. That's so
Mhm.
cool. So, how do you teach someone who says, I want to do kettlebells and have no clue what they're really getting into? How do you approach that
Like, is a
first
kettlebell
session?
sport?
Yeah.
We start with the deadlift. Like, we start with the
Nice.
swing.
Same thing.
Like, we start at the very beginning.
That's beautiful. I love that.
That's where you start for everything. And for sport specifically, generally people coming into sport know some hard style. They have some sort of they've seen kettlebells before, and what they've been doing has been like a hard style swing. So generally they know how to do a deadlift and they know how to do a hard style swing. And at that point it's just shifting their technique into sports style technique, which is gonna throw them for a loop because it's different and it feels weird, because everything you do with hard style is about power and like strength and going for it and being like, it's not an efficient sport or exercise, right? Like you're supposed to be wiped out after about 20 swings, right? Like if you're putting out enough power, swinging heavy enough. For sport, you should be able to go for a very long time. I did 8 minutes. I did 160 reps straight, like
Yeah.
on Tuesday. Um,
Peace.
so 20 reps is nothing.
Yeah.
So you have to change what your technique is. And so we start with just the swing, and we start with moving from that hinge into this pendulum, which is like a squat, extension, squat, which gives you a lot more float, which makes it a lot more efficient. So you can move into your overhead a lot easier and with a lot less energy. So when you're at minute 9 of a 10-minute set, you don't die, so you can keep going.
Yeah,
Instead
yeah.
of, because if you're doing hard style for 10 minutes straight, it's going to be, it's hard. I mean, I'm sure people can do it, but I wouldn't want to. It's less efficient.
Exactly. And with the stability muscles probably fatiguing super fast because you're pushing out that much power, you're gonna get people
Mhm.
complaining about their lower back and their L4, L5 and stuff, right?
A little bit. I mean, generally we're bracing enough, and like if we're working to those like long that like length of sets, we've built their core enough, and they have done accessories and practiced enough to know the bracing.
Mm.
And we do a lot of things to protect that. We do overhead holds, like a lot of overhead holds if you're doing snatch, because that's your only rest period. If you're
Mm.
doing long cycle or jerk, we're doing a lot of rack holds. So you're able to be comfortable in those positions, and be able to get your rest and get your heart rate back down, in positions that are not super easy to get your heart rate down or get comfortable in. Um, yeah.
My kettlebell coach, he's a team leader with Strong First, and at the beginning of the year, he decided just to do. He's never competed in kettlebell sport, anything. So he decided to jump into one, and it was like a hot mess. Like he because he was trying to do, and he thought he when he went in, he said, "Oh, I'm gonna do 24 kilos," and the person that asked him to go, he's like, "No, you don't want to do that."
You know,
You
yeah.
know, like double 24. He's like, "No, you don't want to do that." So he did. I think he did like double 16s, and he said this was freaking hard. Like, who does?
Yeah.
He's like, this is hard, you know. And then
Yeah.
like the last set was looking sloppy, it was looking crazy.
Oh,
Hmm.
So he was like, yeah,
Yeah, that's normal. That's always the challenge when you have like men coming in from hard style, is you're always like, no, I know that you can do that for 10 sets of 10 reps, right? Where you get to rest between, but this is a very different
yeah,
situation that you're going to be in. So you have to go lighter. You have to plan. You have to like you can't just like go in and whip out your reps, because the goal isn't to hit reps, it's to last for the thing, and it's both. But like when you're learning, you have to be able to last and build that cardio out to last for a very long time under the bells. And even if you're very strong, kettlebell sport strength is specific. It's a sport specific strength that you have to practice, and also the technique. You can't just jump into double 24s. That'll you it's not going to work. You have to practice the technique lighter always with everything. But with sport, you're doing so many reps. If you don't have the technique, it falls apart very, very quickly, almost immediately.
mm.
You can usually get a good 2 minutes in, and then it's about where it falls apart.
Form is so important. I agree 100%. I think teaching people form in any and every exercise can give them an idea of what their joints and muscles and nervous system are supposed to really do and feel, and you can find out where people are tight or weak. Um, is there any other thing you compete in outside of kettlebell sports? Just curious.
I don't know if I compete. I do bent pressing, which there's not really competitions for bent pressing. But I do train bent press like I'm competing in it.
Nice.
Um, but there's like a couple like off tiny associations that do some stuff with bent pressing, but there's not really like a meet for
I
bent
think you should
press.
join that. I think you should start that up.
Well, there's the USAWA, and I know they have bent press in their lift thing, but like there's not like a lot of meat. Like it's a really small organization.
Mm.
Um, but that's like the only one that I could think of that would have anything for the bent press, because it's an old lift. It's not a lift people compete in really. It's just
Old school. It's a
me and
old
like six guys, and we're all just, a few of them are named Peter. Like it's all the same few people. So when I post about it, there's only a few people who like who are excited about it.
That's funny. And
Yeah.
in your resume, it also said you train like different types of lifts that aren't what was it called? Just like a an orthodox kind of without hurting people. What was that? What do you what is that? I'm
Uh,
curious.
bent pressing would be one of the odd lifts.
Ah,
But also I do steel mace, I do Indian clubs, things like that. I have a Bulgarian bag back here, the jump rope, like the rope flow stuff. I have quite the
that's
collection of
cool.
different tools back here. Um, so like any of those things, but I think steel mace is a good complement to a lot of the things that I do, and it's a good way to balance out that pressing or sport because sport tends to be very here and it tightens you up. You can see lifters because there's a legends category in kettlebell sport, which is like over 50 or 60 or something. So it's like older people who've been competing in sport for their whole lives, but a lot of them are pretty hunched in.
Yeah.
So doing things like steel mace where you're behind and opening up your chest again is really beneficial. So I do a lot of that, and that pairs very well with a lot of the things I do. Helps with the triceps, which is really beneficial for my bent pressing. Um, so, and then clubs, just good to get moving. I don't know if you do Indian clubs at all, but those are another great tool for warming up days, active recovery days. Also, kettlebell juggling. So there's all sorts of stuff.
A clubs course earlier in the year. First time I've ever done clubs. And it was fun. Like the flow, like the different flows, and looking at the different types of clubs and the sizes. It was a really good course. I actually well, I actually my goal was to actually buy clubs, but I didn't get a chance to do that. But yeah, that's one of my goals. But I have a mace. I brought my mace. We went through that as well. How important is it to like teach strength, and what does strength mean to you specifically?
I mean, I love teaching strength. It's my favorite thing. I think it's really cool to show someone that they can do something that they didn't know they could do. Like that moment when like a lift clicks or they hit a PR, that is like the coolest moment to like get to be there for, and I get to be there for that. I like pretty often, which is really rad. So I love that moment where you're like they were like thinking that they couldn't do the thing. They're like, I can't do this. This is too much. I'm never going to get this. And then there's this day, this cue, whatever, where it comes together and you're like, do you remember like 2 months ago when you said that this was never going to happen? And you get to be there for that and help them and push them to reach these goals that they didn't think was going to be a thing. And I think that's the coolest job in the world, really. Um, and strength for me is just honestly, it could be a lot of things and it changes pretty regularly for me. Like a lot of sometimes strength is endurance for me. When I'm training sport, strength is endurance. When I'm training bent press, strength is literally just straight up power and strength. Like it depends on what I'm doing. And I think that strength is flexible uh and it can be whatever you need it to be. Because sometimes strength isn't even fitness. Sometimes strength is just like mentally being in it. And sometimes strength is just like being able to do a thing even though you were too tired or didn't think you'd want to do your workout that day. So it's a flexible, malleable thing that you just have to make work for you.
Love that. I absolutely love that. That's a great. I love that.
Yeah, very powerful. And if anyone in the YouTube world watching this is inspired by that comment, please drop it down. Let us know what you think strength is for you, and how do you identify strength? Because what Tiffany said there is just gems. It's just so valuable. I agree 100%. You have to make it your own. And that delayed gratification on the client's face when they see that they are badasses, they're amazing
Hmm.
people, it lights my world as well. So I can definitely relate to you on that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Ron, you got
Yeah.
any more questions? I know you have a bunch.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna ask because I got that free Zoom. It's getting low. No, no. But just another question. What are some things that you like to focus more on in your training and coaching, like moving forward? I know you're always growing, you're always learning. What are some things you want to focus more on?
Um, I mean, I love coaching sport athletes. I think kettlebell sport athletes are the best sort of crazy people who are willing to do a hard thing for a very long time. So I love coaching athletes who've been in the sport, but also people who are just trying to figure out if that's the sport for them. I work with a lot of people who've just started doing kettlebell sport or just started kettlebells in general, and I love working with those people. I also just love working with beginners and making training that works for them in their life. Because I think deeply that training should fit into your life, not that you should be like fitting your life around your training. A lot of times when you see a lot of fitness influencers, it's like these crazy 3 hour long workouts, and that's not functional for the average person. So I think working with people who think that training or working out is never going to work for them, and making it work for them is really cool. And I just love coaching people who want to do weird and cool things. So I love anyone who wants to learn how to do a bent press, who wants to learn how to juggle, any of the cool. If I could use all of the cool tools I have in my home gym, that's great for me.
Right.
Personally, makes it worth like this very crowded space I have back here. But I love working with people who are just learning and starting. I think I can set them on a good path. So when they do move on from me to try more things, that they have the confidence and the baseline and foundation to work off of, so they can be uh, their best and strongest selves, and confident in their abilities without even though the internet is telling people that they have to do a thing a certain way all the time.
Yeah, so true. So true. I really am glad you addressed what you get when you work with someone that knows what they're doing versus what you get when you search on the internet. And if you don't have the same experience as Tiffany has to know how to look for what's quality versus what's trash, you could be finding yourself in an algorithm of really bad influencers trying to introduce and convince you to do things that are going to hurt you or are going to deter you. And so, take that note that one, Tiffany definitely knew what she was doing. She came from a background of athletics and then was able to tie that into what she needed to do for home training and explode that right on out into competition. And she did it because she loves competition, not because she was forced to or she was looking for a new way of training, but because it was a passion. And the endurance and the variable of time that she is messing with to get those calories burned, to get stronger, to do all the things, it is phenomenal. It is wonderful. It is a powerful tool. And I'm really glad you introduced sport to us here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to it.
I know you
Yeah.
have your own podcast as well. What is your podcast called?
Tiffany's Fitness Podcast. uh, yeah, Tiffany's Fitness Podcast. I just relaunched it after a little hiatus because of the move. So I have my first episode of season 2 with my friend Emilio. My friend Dana is on this upcoming week, and I've got more guests lined up. But there's a lot of I try to just talk to anyone who does strength in any sort of any way. So I've talked to jugglers, old timey strongman lifters, odd lifts, regular strength people, hard style practitioners. I've just tried to get a lot of people talking about strength. So I don't think there should be any sort of dogma in strength. I think there's a way for everyone to lift. And so I just try to bring that into my podcast. But also sometimes we go off the rails and talk about video games for 20 minutes. So, I can't have it. It happens.
I have an extensive collection. Don't worry, an extensive collection. It goes all the way back to the Nintendo original family
Yeah.
copies.
My last episode, I was like, oh, we talked a lot about Zelda and Baldur's Gate 3 in this episode. Oh well.
There's a
It's
lot of
all in
Baldur's Gate 3
there.
people out there that will still go to the gym. Don't worry.
Yeah, there's crossover. There's
There's
crossover.
definitely crossovers. 2024, there's definitely crossovers. That's so awesome.
You have anything
Yeah.
you want to add, Cliff?
I am just ecstatic. Tiffany, is there any socials, any links, anything that you want people to find you, or to, if they're curious, where do they get to see Kettlebell Sport by Tiffany?
Tiffness.fitness is my Instagram, also my TikTok. I have a website, tiffnessfitness.com. My YouTube is also Tiffness Fitness. I'm Tiffness Fitness everywhere, very well branded. And yeah, and you can find me all over the internet at that. And honestly, I get tagged by a lot of cool people, so you can also look at my tags or people I follow and tag to see more kettlebell sport lifters and jugglers, and all of the things.
Awesome. Well, I
That's
appreciate
exciting.
the show. You're an amazing athlete, amazing coach. And I want you guys to stay awesome, keep stepping greatness, be legendary, have the most amazing time. Thank you for coming to Mobility Bros, Tiff. And we'll talk.
Yeah.
Take care.
Okay.
See you next
Bye.
week.